सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। चैतन्यं सर्वगं सर्वं सर्वभूतगुहाशयं यत्सर्वविषयातीतं तस्मै सर्वविदे नमः। गुणानां समभावस्य भ्रंशो न ह्युपपद्यते अविद्यादेः प्रसुप्तत्वात् न चान्यो हेतुरुच्यते। Mumukshuna matisthairya, that mumukshus have sthairya matisthairya, a firmness of conviction about what Vedanta teaches. So what the Vedanta Siddhanta is has been stated in these verses, and for a firm conviction of the truth as revealed by Vedanta, the Atma, Tattva, Brahma, Swarupa, Avagamaeva, Atmalabhaya, Paramolabha. Atmalabha is Paramolabha. Attaining Atma, that means knowing Atma is the supreme gain. Atma, Tattva, Brahma, Swarupa, Avagame. When this avagama knowledge, the Atma is Brahman, one non-dual, that's all there is. It means that by knowing Atma, you attain Atma, and since Atma is everything, you attain everything. Why is it called Paramalabha? Supreme gain, because that's all there is, it's limitless. There cannot be anything greater or more than limitless. Param Purushatha. And that is the most exalted goal or end that is sought by human beings. Atmaika Jnanam Moksha Sadhanam. So knowing Aikyam, knowing oneness of what is, that there are differences at some levels, no doubt about that. But whatever differences we think they're all immaterial. They do not in any way affect the limitlessness, oneness, non-duality, non-division of the self, of the truth. Atma cha advayananda rupaha. But again the self that is Brahman is Advaya Ananda, not only Advayananda rupaha. Ananda that does not exclude anything, Advaya. Tasmin ajnanamulaha samsara na paramatma iti. So samsara, division, and consequent struggle, battle, grief, conflicts, they're all ajnanamula. Na paramartataha. The Advayananda is paramartataha. The Ananda, happiness, wholeness, one non-dual is the reality. And samsara, dukkha has no reality. There cannot be more noble vision of life than this. That's what Vedanta provides. And to gain a firmness, that non-dual, ananda, wholeness, and that's all there is. Everything else is appearance, a notion. For gaining conviction in this. So every time we can bring this into play. It's not just a theory or something in the mind. In every situation you can bring this to play. Because it is practical, it is the reality. And today what happens, every little situation throws me off. When I'm in right mind, all this makes is all right, but then I'm thrown off. Because there is no conviction. Because reality is given to what is not real. Therefore, Vedanta also discusses how things are unreal and how, not recognizing that, even great thinkers also have come to a variety of conclusions. And so the purpose of refuting those conclusions, not to refute them, is to gain a firmness and our own clarity. And when the vision of Sankhya is refuted, that does not mean the whole Sankhya is refuted. They have each one of them have made great contribution to this thinking process, Indian thinking process. So that part which we find doesn't make sense, that alone we just let go. And the rest, what is useful, we accept. So Gunanam, now what the Sankhyas are saying, so let us read the Tika. Tatra yat pradhanam trigunatmakam swatantram acetanam purushasya bhogavasam mahadadirupam parinamate iti kalpayanti tat tavat na sambhavati. So that there is evolution, creation, and the first entity that manifests is called Mahat Tattva, is Samashti Buddhi, is the cosmic intellect. From there is Ahankara, the cosmic ego. And ego again is Sattvic, Rajas, Tamas, and from Sattvic ego, all the means of knowledge, organs of perception, action, mind, they are created. From Tamas ego, all the, with Tamas, the universe is created, 5 elements and everything else. This is one view. Whether we use that from Sattvic ego, only Sattva is created, organs of perception and mind. For Rajas, the organs of action and prana is created. From Tamas ego, the rest of the Achetanam, unconscious world is created. That this parinama or transformation that takes place in the original cause called pradhanam or prakriti has the purpose of providing bhoga apavargatham for fulfilling needs of this Purusha. The Purusha, the conscious being, cannot fulfill his own needs because he is just neutral. This Prakriti or the primordial matter recognizes the need of Purusha and thus, evolves the whole universe to fulfill the needs. Iti kalpayanti. Swatantram acetanam trigunatmakam pradhanam. Pradhan, the primordial matter, which is trigunatmakam, which is the equilibrium, all the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. Acetanam, unconscious. But swatantram. So this is where the catch is. That pradhanam is the previous state of prakriti. Pradhanam is the state of equilibrium of prakriti. And when that equilibrium is about to be disturbed, then the creation will take place. It's called prakriti, from where then the whole activity starts. But that this principle is acetanam, but swatantram. And also, even though acetanam, unconscious, is able to understand, recognize the needs of Purusha, who is Chetana, and create the universe in response to the needs of Purusha, which is Bhoga and Apavarga, for enjoyment of pleasure, or Apavarga for moksha. Kalpayanti. This is their kalpana. So we don't refute here this whole creation of Mahat, etc. It's quite all right with us. That Pradhanam is Acetanam is no problem. Purusha is Chetan is no problem. But that Pradhanam independently creates this, evolves. Tattavanna sambhavati. That is not possible, because what is Pradhanam? The balance or equilibrium of the three gunas. So when there is that balance, then there is no activity. The activity is initiated when an imbalance comes. So in state of pralaya or dissolution, there is balance in all the three gunas, equilibrium, so no activity. The creation is about to start. Then some imbalance happens. And then activity starts. That also we accept. But who brings about that imbalance? The question. When a balance or equilibrium is there, equilibrium itself cannot bring about imbalance, understand? There should be some external force which should bring about imbalance and equilibrium. If all the billiard balls are properly arranged, then there is no reason why they should get disturbed. Somebody has to put some stick is to be, pushed. Otherwise it will remain as it is forever. That's what Newton said. That inertia is the nature of things. Activity has to be initiated, pushed. Otherwise, inertia is nature of matter. Matter is inert by nature. So that also, they also said, he said, inertia, inactivity is the nature of matter. So if you leave it, it will just stay there. That's called friction. Only when you keep on pushing, that will overcome that friction and movement will start. Meaning that the inherent nature of matter is inertia. So what brings about this activity? Initial imbalance, what brings about that to initiate the process of creation? So this is what is addressed in this verse. Gunanam samabhavasya brahmso na hyupadyate. Brahm's imbalance. The imbalance in the pradhanam, which is of nature of balance of three gunas, that no, but it is not tenable or logical, reasonable to accept that imbalance just happens by itself. No upapadyate. So Tika says, Yato gunanam sattva-rajas-tamasam samabhavasya Srishti prak kalina melanasya. Srishti prak kalina melanam. The melanam, this mixing up, all these three gunas Srishti Prakalina, at the time before creation. Samabhavasya, that equivalent, the equilibrium is there. Or what's Sattva, Rajas, Tamasam, Gunanam. So guna here is not quality. The word guna of the Sankhya, that technical word, paribhashik shabda, it doesn't mean quality. It means constituent. So sattva, rajas, tamas are three constituents constituting what we call pradhanam. We say it is maya, but pradhanam. But between maya and pradhanam there is a big difference in that pradhanam is swatantram, maya is paratantra, that says. So Brahma, Shaya, Maya, Asti, that's what Tattva Buddha would say. There is something called Maya, but Brahma, Shaya. Here, that Prakriti or Pradhanam is looked upon as independent, has no Ashraya. So Brahmsha Prachudihi. So now when the creation is about to start, Brahmsha falling down, meaning disturbance of that equilibrium. Purvavastha tyagena avasthantara patrupa parinama. Parinama transformation, because Sankhyas believe in transformation. Parinami upadana karanam, nirupadana undergoes transformation. So what is Brahmsha? What is the deviation from previous state? Purvavastha tyagena avasthantara patrupa. Purvavastha, samyavastha. By giving up the samyavastha, the state of equilibrium, avasthantarapati vishamavastha, non-equilibrium. From samyavastha, vishamavastha. Equality, inequality. So that durghatatva, how do you, that is inexplicable, durghatatva. There is no, we do not find any reason to believe that all of a sudden the balance became imbalanced. No, upadyate, it is not tenable, not logical. This is what the Vedantic statement is, by the way. So this is called pratigna, proposition. You have to give then hetu. Kutaha iti? What, for what reason do you say this? Kuta iti tatra vaktavyam. So when you ask the question, what makes you say this, then let us say what your position is. When you accept the Brahmsha or Patanam or Pachutihi or transformation from the state of balance to imbalance, in what way do you visualize the transformation? Let us see, then we will reply. Tatra Bhaktam. This is what you have to answer. Kim nirhetuka eva guna parinama iti ishyate sahetuko va. Nirhetuka. That parinama, that transformation from a state of balance to imbalance, is nirhetuka. Is it for no reason at all does it take place? Nirhet means without hetu, without reason, without cause. Because in universe we find that whenever something happens, there is always a cause. The universe is a cause and effect chain. There cannot be an effect without the cause. The first effect is this, that balance became imbalanced. Is there a cause for that? For any phenomenon there should be cause. Is there a cause? Nirhetukaha. Sahetuko va. Guna parinama. This transformation, the state of this guna as balance to imbalance, is it because of a reason outside of them, or without any reason it happens? Just happens. Nadhya cannot be nirhetuka, cannot be without any reason. Sada parinama prasanga. If you don't need any reason for something to happen, then that thing will keep on happening. That's what Vedanta says. If there is no reason for something to happen, then it is independent, it can happen, keep on happening. Why should it not happen? Sada parinama, then there will be no dissolution state, there is no balance at all. You accept that there is an equilibrium of these gunas, and then the unequilibrium comes by itself, then why should equilibrium? Then unequilibrium is a nature. That means it will always happen because it does not require reason to happen. If something does not require reason to happen, if the milk transforms into curd by itself, you don't need to curdle it. Then curd will happen by itself, so the milk will always change into curd. Because that's the nature, it looks like. So transformation of milk into curd doesn't require any reason. If something doesn't require reason, then it will keep on happening. No reason not to happen. And therefore that is not tenable. Nirhetuka. That this transformation from balance to imbalance happens without a reason, that is not logical, not tenable. It is never observed, and then as I said, you can't explain. You're trying to explain the transformation. That explanation is without reason, then can't explain because you can't go back to any earlier state also. Then there is a hetu. What is sahetukova? What do you say that hetu, or reason for that transformation to take place from balance to imbalance? Then all right, what possible hetus can be there? So tika dvitiya bhi avidya praniya dushta purushayava hetuhu. Three entities can become the cause. One is avidya, ignorance can be the cause, which is the cause for everything. Praniya dushta, the karma, dushta means karma. The potential of the karma which is there of all the pranis, which is right now unmanifest, becomes manifest. Karma is the one that motivates this thing. Either ignorance is the reason for bringing about this change, or karma of the living being jiva is the reason for bringing about the transformation. Third fellow is Purusha, or this Purusha. He brings about. Only two entities are accepted, Purusha and Prakriti. And Aviveka also is accepted that Purusha identifies with Prakriti and things. So that they accept Aviveka, that Purusha is by himself. Nirvikara Chit. So it is consciousness, changeless consciousness, the nature of Purusha. The thing that is changing is due to Aviveka identification. So there is ignorance. So avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, they also accept avidya. So avidya can bring about this change. Karma can bring about the change. Or Purusha, the conscious being, can bring about the change. The three possibilities are there. So are these, according to you, one of these or all these together is the reason for this? The Danyava Parameshwara, or the Parameshwara other than them is the hetu. Nadya. This avidya, prani, adhushta and purusha, none of them can be the cause for transformation. Why? Avidyade, verse avidyade prasuptatvat. At the time of dissolution, when there is total inactivity, none of them is active. Avidya is not active, karma is not active, and of course Purusha is not active. But basically, if Prakriti is the reason for transformation, then ignorance or the karma can be the cause for motivating or instigating Prakriti, prompting Prakriti to do something. But that time, avidya and karma, all of them are merged. At the time of dissolution, they are all inactive. So they are not in a position to bring about any change. So Vidya and Karma cannot be the cause because they are themselves merged and manifest. Avidya prasuptatvat, leenatvat. So potentially ignorance is there, karma is there, but then they are in a state like deep sleep, they are inactive. Then Purusha doesn't do anything according to them. What is done by Prakriti, not by Purusha. There are reasons to say that. So Purusha always Udasina, unconnected, indifferent. At time creation, sustenance, resolution, Purusha doesn't do anything. So Purusha also cannot be considered as a reason for prompting the Prakriti to do something because it's just there, that's all. So you have to say all this for various other things. Your ultimate Siddhanta, that can be established when all these things are imagined, or otherwise not. So their own Siddhanta is taken. Purushana udasina na tan nimitta samyavastha brahmsha ityartha. Therefore none of these three, neither ignorance, nor karma, nor Purusha can be the reason for bringing about a change in the balance. Anyava Parameshwara or Parameshwara brings about. No, don't talk of Parameshwara, they don't talk of Ishvara. Na dvitiya, na anyo hetu uchyate. Anya. The Anya means what? Purusha, other than this. Parameshwara, na avidyadibhya, Anya Parameshwara, angikare, apasiddhanta prasanga. You cannot say that Parameshwara, an independent principle, independent of this Vidya and Karma and Purusha is the cause, because in your Siddhanta you don't accept that. The moment you accept Parameshwara, then this Prakriti is gone. But Prakriti cannot be independently doing things, Parameshwara is accepted. Which Vaisheshikas, Nayayikas accept, but Sankhyas don't. It's called Nirishvara Sankhya. Yoga is Saishvara Sankhya. Yoga accepts Ishvara as some kind of Purusha Vishesha. In some way they accept it. That this is also a conscious being, but then is affected by karma, etc. And there is consciousness or conscious being not affected. For them it's a conscious being for yoga. But avidya, kama, karma, unaffected by all of this, that kind of conscious being is Ishvara. But Sankhya's don't accept that also. So therefore, you cannot explain the cause of the first imbalance that takes place, like the Big Bang. That's what they investigate. What brought about the Big Bang? You can't say it just happens. Scientists don't want to accept any Ishvara. They don't want to accept any conscious being. They say consciousness is the product of the matter. When matter combines in a primordial soup, until then there is no consciousness. Absolutely, this is whatever. Because consciousness can't be measured in laboratory. You cannot establish existence of consciousness by your material means or physical means. It's not a physical principle. For them it's physics, all physical stuff. So then what brought about Big Bang is something that they will avoid, that answer. So far I don't know if there is an answer or not. Same thing. This first imbalance, Sanghya, is similar to Big Bang. Big Bang, a tremendous activity takes place. And its effect is felt forever. It's going on, the effect is going on, the universe is expanding and expanding, and then it will contract someday when it will run out of steam, they say, Start contracting. Which is fine. Scientists are always they're open. So if they discover something, then they will let go. But this is where they are also right now. As we understand them anyway, whatever. So then, continuing. Gunanam Anyo. So all right. Next one is Guna Anyonyam Pravritti Hetutvam Syat. Hey, you do not require an entity or principle other than gunas to prompt an activity. Why not gunas themselves do this? Because Tattvam Rajas Tamayadi Guna Prakriti Sambhavaha. These three gunas are there. And then Lord Krishna says that someday Sattvam becomes predominant by subduing Rajas and Tamas. Sometimes Rajas becomes predominant, sometimes Tamas becomes predominant. That's what Lord Krishna says. Rajas Tamascha Vibhuya Sattvam Bhavati Bharata. Rajas Tamascha Vibhuya. By overpowering Rajas and Tamas, Sattva becomes predominant. Rajas Sattvam Tamascheva Tamas Sattvam Rajas Tatha. So it is accepted that one guna at a given time is always predominant, subduing the other two. This is always the case with everybody, with the universe also. So why not we say that gunana anyonyam pravritti hetutvam, that one guna causes pravritti in the other gunas. Iti che, if that's what you will say, then next verse is Itaretara hetutve pravritti syat sadanava niyamo na pravrittinam guneshvatmani va bhaved. Itaretara hetutve. So that was the introduction. Gunana anyonyam pravritti hetutvam syat. If they say that these gunas become the cause of prompting the activity into other ones, so let's go itaretara hetutve pravritti syat. So that paksha is already, explained by Tikakara. Then we have to ask them, sadanava pravritti syat sadanava. Then we have to ask, itaretara hetutve, if itaretara, each one becomes a hetu for the other, please tell us, this pravritti, this activity of creation, etc., will it always take place or not? So Tika says, asmin pakshe prayojakantar pratiksha anapekshanat. So in the earlier discussion there was a prayojakantar pratiksha was there. That pradhanam expected prayojanantaram, either avidya or karma or purusha or Parmeshwara, then Parmeshwara. So Parmeshwara was the prayojanantaram, another prayojanam. So now prayojaka, the prompter. But then since they don't accept Parmeshwara, at that time no other factors are active, they are all unmanifest. So then it could be that these three gunas which are there, they themselves prompt the activity. So in that position there is no apeksha, no need for a prayojakantara, for another one that prompts. So Parameshwara, which is definite, you don't need them because gunas themselves do that prompting. Now then, sada pravritti syat, then they will keep on doing that, When these three fellows are there, they'll keep on doing it. Why should they stop it? Moment even more than one fellow gets together, you can't expect peace there. And what about three? That becomes a crowd, they say. Something will keep on happening. You can't expect the three monkeys are there and they're all married. This is not possible. Three monkeys, each one, then they will keep on doing it. There will be no peace at all. So there will be no pralaya. Because activity will be there, that's the nature. Oh, no, they are at peace. Then they will always be at peace. Then there will be no activity at all. Either activity will take all the time, sada, pravritti parinama syat, nava syat. So you tell us what will be, that the consequence will be. That either because the three gunas are active, their activity will go on forever. Or if you say that no, right now there is no activity, then there is no activity forever. So sada pravritti parinama syat, nava syat. Or not, so one of the two. If these three gunas are prompting each other, one another, then either they will all keep on prompting. If they don't prompt, then they will prompt. Vishesha abhavat. Because there is no difference. No change happens in them, and therefore either their nature it is always to keep on prompting or not prompting. There is nothing to change that nature. See, don't say that. Asa kramena utpatti sti samharanam prasiddhatva. How can you say there is no activity? How can you position that sada pravritti syat? There is no activity if you say that these gunas are prompting each other, and one position is there is pravritti all the time, or there is no pravritti all the time. Utpatti sthiti kramena utpatti samharanam prasiddhatva. It is your experience that constantly creation, sustenance, development takes place. So you can't say there is no pravritti. So that position is gone because we find pravritti. Alright. Then niyamo, next line says, niyamo na pravrittinam guneshu atmaniva bhaved. Pravrittinam guneshu atmaniva niyamo na bhaved. Pravrittinam, the cause of pravritti, either in the gunas or in the atma, purusha or prakriti. Na bhaved. We do not find anything that will cause that activity either in the gunas or purusha. So niyama means rule, but here niyamyate aneneti niyama. And so the word niyama generally means a rule, but here niyama means niyamyate, so aneneti niyama, niyamakaha or hetuhu. So niyama is explained here is niyamyate anena. So normally niyamaha means niyamanam, but here the karma vispatti is there. So niyamyate anena, that by which the niyamanam or controlling is done, that's called niyama. Means what? Niyamaka, hetu. So we do not find niyama, we do not find niyamaka, we do not find a hetu. Pravrityanam gunakaryotpatyadinam. So pravritti, what's a pravritti? Gunakaryotpatyadinam. Gunakarya means what? The effect of the gunas. Utpatyadinam. Utpatti, sthiti, laya are the karya, the effect of these three gunas. So we do not find any niyamaka, anything that is a prompter or a controller of this activity in the gunas. So where do we have guneshu? Atmani, there are two entities there. Either three gunas are there or Atma is there. So guneshu, sattvadishu, Atmani, purusheva, yato na bhavet, na sambhavet. In the gunas, there is nothing in the gunas that can bring about, the gunas cannot prompt, achetana they are. Gunas being achetana, therefore, how can they prompt any activity? Chetana only can do prompt activity. Gunas, so guneshu, sattvadishu, atmani. So number one, guneshu, sattvadishu, niyama na bhavet. The sattvadi gunas being achetana cannot have niyamakatvam, cannot prompt any activity. And Purush Atmaniva, even Purush also cannot be the prompter of activity. Atah sada pravritti apravrittirva syaditi yojana. Meaning that neither gunas can bring about any change in status, nor Purusha or Atma can bring about change in status because they don't have anything in them to prompt any change in status. So if the state is activity, then nobody can stop it. And the state is inactivity, nobody can initiate it because neither gunas, they are unconscious, therefore they cannot prompt activity. Or Purusha is also conscious, is indifferent, therefore also doesn't prompt activity. That being the case, again, so how can gunas prompt each other when they are unconscious? How can Purusha prompt when he is indifferent? And so, if together gunas cannot do, individual also they cannot do because they accepted the unconscious principle. See, they somehow say that even though Prakriti is unconscious, it is able to respond. Now, this is their whole idea. There is no rule that unconscious thing cannot respond. You find that it preferentially rains in forest areas. The rain preferentially is there when there is greenery. Why is it so? Because rain knows that these people need me more. So since rain knows that this forest need us more, so that's why the clouds go there. So clouds are able to see or sense what the forest needs. So Prakriti is able to sense what the Purusha needs. It's some kind of reasons you have to give, some example, Drishtanta you have to give. We go to basics. Unconscious thing cannot prompt, that's all. So then you have to explain differently. If this is happening, then there has to be a different explanation and not that the clouds sense what the forest need and stuff like that. That's ridiculous. Therefore, neither guna nor Purusha can prompt any activity, nor can they bring about cessation of activity. They cannot initiate activity, nor can they bring about cessation of activity. Since they cannot bring about cessation, activity will always be there. Since they cannot initiate activity, inactivity will always be there. One of the two. Nai Purusha, nai Guna Purusha Diriktam, Kintyata Abhyugadamiti Sankyahi. And Sankyas don't accept Parameshvara. Therefore, a Niyamaka, Guna Atiriktam, is someone different from Guna and Purusha. That kinchit tattvam na abhivagatam, they don't accept any entity or tattvam other than these two. Guneshu va purusheshu asthitva prutyadi nyamakam sadityartha. If there is a third entity, some intelligence, which comes to the Purusha and prompts something, or intelligence that comes to Prakriti and then makes Prakriti do things. This is where all the business of evolution is going on in the West also. Whether it is intelligent creation or it is Darwinian creation or some Parameshvara is there to create, this debate is going on. Same thing. Because when they say that there is a selection, the matter brings about selection to evolve, that means they are accepting Chetanatvam in matter, That next stage is because of the present stage, the matter and it selects to evolve to next stage. So potential evolution is all in the matter because they don't accept the conscious principle. Some ridiculous thing that matter now is intelligent to evolve. We say intelligence cannot be an unconscious thing. And so I think the traditional religious people and these people, they keep on. So what should we teach in the school? That's the question now. Should you teach what the Bible teaches in the school or what the science teaches? So that debate is going on, and different kind of curriculum are there and whatever. But why these are Sankyas basically? They like Sankhya very much. Science likes Sankhya very much because they find some sympathy and some insight in them. Anyway, but we do not find how an inner unconscious thing ever can prompt unless some conscious principle comes, either in guna or in purusha, to prompt activity. We do not see any reason to accept that either this or that can do this. Yatha kathanchit astu pradhana pravrutti, all right. Yatha kathanchit. Even though it cannot be explained, let us in some way you accept that because pravrutti is there, therefore pradhana, and they want pradhana to be pravrutti, all let's for the time we accept that, in some way or the other, pradhana becomes active. Yatha kathanchit. Meaning that doesn't make sense, but let us take for granted momentarily that it is there. Pravrutti, nobody denies. What brings about pravrutti is the question here. Tathapi dosha prasakti parihatum nasparyate. Even then, even if you say that somehow the pravrutti comes, and therefore that imbalance happens, and therefore the creation takes place. Then again the balance must come, that's another thing, Imbalance should come to balance, that's another problem also. Anyway, tathapi dosha prasakti parihartum na paryate. Dosha prasanga. Even then, occasion of a dosha or this kind of defect, incongruity. What is a defect? Illogical incongruity. What is incongruous means what you are saying has no basis of reasoning. Then you say that. That people do anyway. When they say, they don't always think that what we are saying has to have reason, etc. Why? I said it. So, here suppose, yatha kasanchit, all right, except for the moment, that pradhana matter brings about activity. Then also, dosha prasakti, this prasakti, occasion of this dosha, of this blemish or defect of thinking, or logic, cannot be avoided. So, next verse is, Vishesho muktabadhanam tadarthena cha yujyate artharthanostva sambandha narthigno netaropi va. All right. So now they say that this Prakriti, it senses the need of the Purusha. And that Purusha needs Bhoga and Apavarga and therefore provides what the Purusha needs to fulfill his Purushartha. Two Purushartha are accepted. Bhoga and Apavarga. So Dharma, Artha, Kama included Bhoga and Apavarga. So depending upon the need of the Purusha, the Prakriti creates, evolves. So then at least you accept the Baddha Purusha and Mukta Purusha. Purusha means Purushai Arthyate. The Purusha, the person desires. What is desired? Most desired by a Purusha is called Purushartha. So Purusha is an Arthi, a desirer, a needy person, needy entity. And Prakriti is what? That which fulfills that Artha. This is their setup, this is their model. So let us look at that model. Granted that Prakriti is able to sense and then able to do, let us see how it will happen. Tadarthe. So pradhanasya purusha tadarthe tadarthasya bhava tadartham. Tadartha means that Prakriti is for Purusha. Prakriti serves the artha or the prayojana of Purusha. Prakriti serves the purpose of Purusha. This is their model. Tadarthe. So Prakriti Purushartha, meaning for the purpose of Purusha, the Prakriti is there. This is the nature of Prakriti. Pradhanasya Purusharthatve sati. Purusha means Purushartha means Purusha Prayojana. Purushasya Prayojana. Pradhana serves the prayojana of Purusha or Atma. This fellow is only, he can't do anything, so he depends on Prakriti to fulfill his needs, They must observe in life, that's what is happening perhaps. In all kind of Purusha Prakriti combination, this Prakriti that must be doing things and Purusha for, So that model they have applied here also, I guess. But anyway, so pradhanasya purusha sattve sari baddha muktanam vishesha. How do you distinguish now between baddha purusha? That prakriti senses the purusha is bound who wants to be liberated, so she does this. Now this fellow is liberated, so she doesn't do anything. Now how does this kind of vyavastha happens? That prakriti is capable of fulfilling need of purusha. So now, how do you distinguish baddha purusha and mukta purusha? Purushas are all purushas. And prakriti does things at a time. So you bring something for everybody. Somebody says, I don't like. So what can you do? Somebody has this need, that fellow has that need, this fellow doesn't need this, that fellow doesn't need that. In that case, there is no single thing that you do can fulfill the needs, So Prakriti can do one thing at a time. How can it fulfill needs of contrary needs of bondage and liberation? So nahi sarapurushan prati. So baddha mukta vishesha na yujyate, then you cannot explain the vishesha distinction between baddha and mukta, that there is a purusha who is bound, the other purusha is liberated. That distinction you can't explain. Why not? Nahi sarapurushan prati sadharane pradhanasya ekasya vyapare kechit baddha kechit mukta adi vyavastha upadyate. Because prakriti does one thing. If there are different needs, how can that one thing fulfill the contrary needs? Food can satisfy the need of hunger. But food cannot satisfy the need of stomach problem and this problem, because that can be only one thing. If food going to stomach creates trouble in one case, and food appease hunger in another case, then the food cannot distinguish between these two, it will just do what it does. How can you say food recognize this fellow is the trouble, therefore it will resolve that trouble? This fellow is hunger, it will resolve. How can one food cannot do these two contrary things? You follow? No one thing can do two contrary things simultaneously. So bound purusha has one need and mukta purusha has other need. How can one prakriti simultaneously satisfy these two contrary needs? Nahi sarvapurushan prati sadharane pradhanasya ekasya vyapare ekasya pradhana sadharana vyapare. One pradhana means one vyapara. Sadhana means what is equal to all, common to all of them. What a vyapara, what a pradhanam does is for all the purushas. Kechit baddha, kechit mukta. Then how do you distinguish this is a bound entity? That this is done for the bound person, this is done for the liberated person, because one thing is done. And one thing can fulfill more than one needs, but not contrary needs, you follow? The bondage will be the contrary things. It can be that one thing provides protein also, and vitamin also, this and mineral, that can do, different things. As long as they do contradict each other. But then, if two things contradict each other, that I am hungry, I am full, so let the food create hunger, let us say. And I am hungry, let the food appease hunger. Now that food, one thing cannot do two opposite things. So this is bound and therefore let pradhanam resolve its bondage. This all is liberated, so let it aid liberation. So sadharana pravritti, therefore, sarvapurushanam, this sadharane vyapare. One pradhanam as one vyapara for all of them. Kechit baddha, kechit mukta is vyavastha. So how do you have the vyavastha or this arrangement that some people are bound and some people are liberated? If pradhanam does different things, then it's all right. Does one thing for this, one thing for... If that can be, but it does one thing at a time. At a given time, pradhanam does one thing for everybody. Then everybody has to do what, So how can contrary things be satisfied? Tathacha sarveva sada baddha. Then it can be that what pradhanam does liberates everybody or binds everybody. So at a time, either all of them should be bound because that's what pradhanam, or all of them should liberate because pradhanam does one thing at a time. Tathacha sarveva sada baddha mukta vasyuhu iti. So therefore, the dosha prasakti, even then the prasakti prasanga, the occasion of dosha cannot be avoided. Further, now, there is a setup here that pradhana knows the need of the purusha. Tadarthya. Pradhana serves the purpose of purusha. So purusha is arthi, one who desires, and pradhana is that which fulfills the desire. Artha and arthi. Artha, the purpose. Arthi, the one having the purpose. So therefore, there is a relation, artha-arthi relationship, or upakari-upakaraka relationship. The purusha is upakarya, one who is helped. Pradhanam is upakaraka, one that helps. That's the relationship. So how do you explain that relationship? Kincha asmin mate, in this Sankhya mata. So the next line says artharthinoho tva sambandha. Artharthinoho, dual. Sixth case. Shesha sheshinoho. Arthi, one who requires artha. So sheshi and shesha, same thing. Sheshi is the one who is served. Shesha is one that serves. Shesha is upakaraka, sheshi is upakarya. Sambandhasya na yujyate. That sambandha between pradhana and purusha of shesha and sheshi, that this is purusha is sheshi, upakarya, and the pradhana is upakaraka, that also cannot be explained. Na yujyate is also is not logical. So this artharthinoho, second line, the tika explains arthyate, prarthyate, the artha. Here artha means prayojana, purpose. So that which is, what serves the purpose is called artha here. What is sukha? Basically what the purusha wants is freedom, liberation, happiness. Sukha, tat sadhana rupa padartha. Artha is what the purusha desires. What is desired is called artha. Sukha is desired, happiness is desired. And that's sadhana, and therefore happiness can come when you are sadhana, means of happiness. So what the Purusha desires is means of happiness so that he will get happiness. Happiness can happen when there is a means of happiness. I can be happy when I get something that I enjoy. So that what I enjoy is a means of happiness. So that's what the pradhana should give me. So that means of happiness is given, so happiness happens. So that's called artha. Saha abhilashito vidyate yasya arthi. Artha asya asti the arthi. So that abhilashit, that desire and is required by whom is called arthi, purusha. So prakriti provides, pradhanam provides sukham tat sadhanam, and purusha is one desires of that sukham and tat sadhanam, artha and arthi. Tayo sambandha upakarya, upakaraka bhava lakshana. Purusha is upakarya, so one that is favored. Pradhana means upakaraka, one that favors. So favor, sambandha is imagined by them. So then alone this vyavastha works for them. They set the whole setup. So these are all suppositions they have. That pradhana is unconscious, purusha is conscious, pradhana is active, purusha is inactive, pradhana recognizes need, purusha. So now then when you say that pradhanam satisfies needs the purusha, suppose pradhana knows somehow, then also. So pradhanam is upakaraka, one that helps or favors, upakarya, one who is favored. That this kind of a relationship cannot be explained. Pradhanavade, na yujyate, na ghatate. Arthat asambandha. That asambandha means sambandha na yujyate. That sambandha between pradhana and purusha of upakaraka upakarya also cannot be explained. Not logical. Why not? So the saying line, Nathignya naitaropi va. Who is arthi and who is what artha? Artha and artharthi. So let us see each one of them whether they can be artharthi or artha. So na arthi jnaha, this jnaha means the conscious being, means jnana gets they accept the Purusha as nirvikara chit swarupaha. Of the nature of consciousness, the changeless consciousness is essential nature of Purusha. So how can he be desirer? Desiring requires change, understand. Unless Purusha undergoes vikara, he cannot become an arthi. Arthi is what? Prarthi. So one who desires, one who wants, one who is needy. But that need itself is a vikara, and he is nirvikara chit swarupa. So jnana Purusha na arthi yukta. You cannot say that Purusha who is jnana svabhava, the nature of just consciousness, how can you relate and desire or need on the part of that Purusha? Tasya asangatva nirvisheshata abhyugamat, because they want Purusha to be asanga and nirvishesha chit swarupa, nirvikara chit swarupa, nirvikara, nirvishesha, asanga. This is how they say Purusha is. How can a Purusha or the Atma of this nature can be arthi, a desire? How can it be needy? Cannot be. So, Atma is arthi. Can Pradhanam be arthi? Na itaro piva, Pradhanakhyo piva. Because it is masculine, therefore Pradhanakhya. Itara, the other one also. Itaram will be all right, but the itara. So, Pradhanakhya, itara, one who is called Pradhana also cannot be Jadatva Deva. This is unconscious cannot have a need. Tasmat Pradhanasya Parathatva Kalpanam Ayuktam Bhavaha. So neither Purusha can be Arthi nor Pradhana can be Artha. Because Purusha doesn't need anything and Pradhana cannot do anything. Tasmat Pradhanasya Parathatva Ayuktam Bhavaha. You can see how things are dismissed one by one. You can see how proper thinking is not gone in developing the whole principle. It's like a chess game. And then you just, you make one move. So the move is made here. Because all you are doing is to recognize what is the defect in thinking. So we have nothing against anybody. This is just thinking is defective. Doesn't take into account everything. So check happens. Tasmat Pradhanasya Parathatva Kalpanam Ayuktam. So Kalpana, imagine that Pradhana is Paratham. So the Purusha doesn't need anything. Pradhana cannot do anything. Purusha is conscious being, therefore doesn't need anything. Pradhana is Chetan, therefore cannot do anything. Therefore, the Artharthi or Shesha-Sheshi Sambandha, which is required for Pradhana to be active. What makes Pradhana do what it does is to satisfy needs of Purusha. This is their model. How do you explain need on the part of Purusha when you project Purusha? When you present Purusha as Nirvikara, Nirvishesha, Sangha, Chit, Swarupa, how can there be need? And when you say Pradhana is unconscious, how can you expect unconscious to fulfill the need? So you can't explain evolution and you can't explain the relation between the two. Sustenance also can't be explained. Okay, we'll continue. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Shanti 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 Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.